My son struck me in my own kitchen last night, and I didn't say a word. But this morning I woke up early and prepared a feast. Eggs, bacon, biscuits, fresh coffee, the works. When he came downstairs and saw that table, he smirked. "Finally learned your place, didn't you, old man?" he said, reaching for a biscuit. That's when the doorbell rang. 2 men stepped into my dining room, and when my son turned around to see who they were, the color drained from his face. Because standing in my doorway was... Before we continue, drop a comment below. Where are you watching this from? I was sitting at the head of my dining room table at 8:15 on a Tuesday morning in Mobile, Alabama. The table was set like Sunday dinner after church. Eleanor's white lace tablecloth, her good china with the little blue flowers, scrambled eggs steaming in the bowl, bacon on the platter, fresh biscuits in the basket, coffee filling the house. It looked like a celebration, but it wasn't. 4 place settings, everything perfect. My jaw ached when I moved it. My lips stung when I sipped coffee. My back was stiff from where I'd hit something hard the night before. But I sat up straight, didn't show it. 50 years working with wood taught me that when the grain's got a crack, you don't put pressure on it until you know whether to fix it or let it break clean. The clock read 8:15. Upstairs, the shower shut off. Footsteps crossed the floor above my head, then the creak of the stairs. Mark appeared in the doorway, 41 years old. Wet hair, wrinkled khakis, old t-shirt. He stopped when he saw the table. His face shifted confusion, then recognition, then something that turned my stomach. Satisfaction. His eyes scanned the food, then landed on my face. On the bruise along my jaw. Not guilt, not worry, pride. He walked to the table, pulled out a chair, sat down heavy. Poured himself coffee like he owned the place. Took a long sip, eyes on me. "Well, well," he said, gesturing at the spread. "Look at this." He leaned back, smirking. "Finally learned your place, didn't you, old man?" I didn't answer, just watched. He grabbed a biscuit, held it up, grinned. "Maybe you should have been doing this a long time ago instead of filling my head with all that garbage about respect." He bit down, chewed with his mouth half open. Crumbs fell onto Eleanor's tablecloth. My hands tightened on my cup. My face stayed neutral. Let him think he won. Just a few more minutes. The silence hung heavy. Then a sound cut through the house. The doorbell. 3 firm knocks. Mark stopped chewing. "Who the hell is that? You expecting somebody—" I set my cup down, stood slowly. "Yes," I said. "What, Dad, who—" I turned and walked toward the front door. Each step measured. Behind me, Mark's chair scraped. "Dad, who is it? It's 8 in the damn morning." I didn't answer. I reached the door, put my hand on the brass knob, felt it cold under my palm. Mark's footsteps followed. I took a breath, turned the knob, opened the door. Standing on my porch were 3 people. When my son came up behind me and saw who they were, he made a sound I'd never heard before, somewhere between a gasp and a choke. The color drained from his face like water down a drain. But I'm getting ahead of myself. You're probably wondering how a 72-year-old man ends up setting a trap for his own son, how a breakfast table becomes the place a family breaks. Let me go back. Let me tell you who I am. And let me tell you how the son I raised became someone I didn't recognize anymore. My name is Robert Hayes. Everybody calls me Bob. Born and raised right here in Mobile, Alabama. Turned 72 this past March. Been a widower for 3 years now. I lost my wife Eleanor to... Well, I lost her. That's all that matters. I was a carpenter my whole life. Built the house I'm living in with my own 2 hands 40 years ago. My hands and Eleanor's patience. She picked out that lace tablecloth you saw. She chose those blue flower plates for our wedding. Every single thing on that breakfast table holds a memory of her. Retired 10 years back, but I still keep a workshop out in the backyard. Woodworking keeps my hands busy, my mind sharp, or at least it used to. 1 son, Mark Hayes, 41 years old, only child, only family I got left. For 39 years I was proud of that boy. First one in our family to go to college. Graduated with honors business degree. Got himself a good job at the port of Mobile. Same port where I used to work, but different building, different job. He wore a tie to work. I wore work boots. But we were both proud. He married a good woman, Diane Mitchell. Smart kind, worked as a nurse. They had a little apartment near the bay. For a while, everything seemed right. Seemed like I'd done a father's job. Raised a good man, a successful man. But seeming right and being right are 2 different things. 5 months ago, my phone rang around 7 in the evening. Diane's voice on the other end, crying, trying to hold it together. "Mr. Hayes," she said, "I need to tell you something. I'm leaving Mark." My stomach dropped. "What happened? Did he hurt you? A long silence. Not physically, not yet. But Mr. Hayes, he's drinking. He's been drinking for 3 years, since your wife passed. And when he drinks, he changes. He gets angry, at me, at himself, at the world. He yells. He breaks things. He says things that... Her voice broke. I've tried to help him, I really have. But I can't anymore. I can't watch him destroy himself, and I can't let him destroy me. I tried to make excuses for him like a fool. Diane, every marriage has rough patches. Mark's under pressure with the restructuring at work. This isn't a rough patch, Mr. Hayes. It's been 3 years. 3 years of walking on eggshells. 3 years of making excuses. Then she said the thing that should have warned me. Mr. Hayes, please, protect yourself. He's angry, especially at you. What do you mean? Just be careful. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. She hung up. I sat there holding the phone. Told myself she was overreacting. Mark would never hurt me. I was his father. I was wrong. 1 month after that call, Mark showed up at my door. 10 o'clock on a Tuesday night. 1 suitcase, red eyes, smelling like beer. Dad, he said, I lost the apartment. Lost the job too. Can I stay here just 2 weeks? Just till I get back on my feet. How could I say no? He was my son. He looked broken. 2 weeks, I said. 2 weeks became a month. A month became 2. 2 months became 4. And somewhere in those 4 months, I stopped recognizing him. And somewhere in those 4 months, the boy I raised, the boy who used to help me in the workshop, the boy who called me his hero, that boy disappeared. In his place was a stranger who drank, a stranger who yelled, a stranger I started to fear. 3 months ago, late October, the first time Mark raised his voice at me, I told myself it was the alcohol. The first time he called me a burden, I told myself he was grieving the marriage. The first time he slammed his fist on my kitchen table hard enough to make the salt shaker jump, I told myself it was temporary. I was real good at lying to myself. It was evening around 11. I was in the living room watching the late news volume low. Heard Mark's pickup pull up outside, engine rumbling too loud. The door slammed. He stumbled in. The smell of bourbon and cigarettes hit me before he did. He stood in the doorway swaying. Son, I said, you're home late. You eat anything? He didn't answer, just looked around the room. His eyes landed on Eleanor's ceramic figurine on the shelf. Photos on the wall. My old bowling trophy. Look at this place, he said. Look at all this junk. That's not junk, Mark. It's junk. His voice exploded. This whole damn house is a museum. Mom's stuff everywhere. Your old crap. There's no room for me. I stood up. Mark, you've had a long night. Why don't we talk tomorrow when... He stepped toward me. When what? When you can coddle me some more? His fist came down on the coffee table. Slam! The sound cracked through the house like a gunshot. The salt shaker jumped. Tipped. Salt spilled. I flinched, stepped back. You know what you are, old man. His face was red twisted. You're a burden. I should put you in some nursing home. Maybe then I could actually live here instead of being suffocated by dead people's memories. I stood there, couldn't move, didn't know what to say. This was my son, but the eyes looking at me belonged to a stranger. Mark stared at me, breathing hard. Then he turned, stomped upstairs. His door slammed so hard a picture rattled on the wall. I stood there alone. My legs were shaking. I sat back down, tried to watch TV, couldn't focus, just kept hearing it. Burden, nursing home, the slam of his fist. I couldn't sleep. At 2 a.m, I gave up. Got up, walked out to my workshop. The workshop's always been my place. Smell of sawdust and oil. Peace. I sat at my workbench trying to make sense of it. It was the alcohol. He didn't mean it. Tomorrow he'll apologize. But my hands were shaking. I opened the top drawer. Wasn't looking for anything. Just needed something to do. That's when I saw it. The little silver Sony voice recorder. Eleanor's. She'd used it years back to record her mama's recipes. I picked it up, wiped the dust. The little rose sticker Eleanor put on it was still there, faded but holding. A memory flashed Eleanor in the kitchen, holding this, laughing. I found old batteries in the drawer, loaded them in, pressed record. Test, 1, 2, 3. Stopped. Hit play. My voice came out clear. Test, 1, 2, 3. It worked. I looked around. Toolbox on the shelf by the door. The workshop door faces the kitchen, usually cracked for air. I put the recorder in the toolbox, hit record, walked to the kitchen. Spoke at normal volume. Came back, played it. Could hear myself clear from the kitchen. Found blank tapes in the drawer Eleanor had bought. A pack, never used them all. Labeled the first one with masking tape. Day 1 OCT 28. Hid the recorder in the toolbox between the wrenches and screwdrivers. Just in case. Probably won't need it. I went back inside as the sun came up. Mark's door was still closed. That was recording number 1. I thought it'd be the only one. I thought Mark would wake up, realize what he'd done, apologize, and we'd figure this out together. I was wrong. It was just the beginning, and things didn't get better. They got worse. Over the next 3 months, something happened I didn't expect. The abuse itself, the yelling, the insults, the threats that hurt. But there was something else that hurt more. The shame. You see, I'm a man from a generation where men don't talk about these things. A man protects his family. A man stands firm. A man doesn't get hurt by his own son. But that's exactly what was happening, and I didn't know how to handle it, except to hide it. During those 3 months, October through January, Mark's drinking got worse. Coming home drunk 4 or 5 nights a week. Yelling became routine. I recorded it all. But the recording wasn't the hard part. The hard part was facing people. I'm a Vietnam veteran, built my own house, raised my son alone after Eleanor passed. I survived a war. I buried my wife. But I couldn't control one 41-year-old drunk. The shame was crushing. I thought about what people would think. Old Bob can't manage his own house. Poor Bob can't control his son. The neighbors probably heard the yelling through the walls. Worse admitting it meant admitting failure. As a father, as a man. So I started hiding, made excuses, stopped going to Friday meetups, stopped inviting friends over, became an expert liar. Sunday morning in December, First Baptist Mobile. After service, Pastor Wilson came over, kind face about 60. Good to see you, Bob. We missed you last week. Caught a cold pastor. Didn't want to spread it around. Line number 47. His eyes dropped to my arm. I'd rolled up my sleeves. The bruise showed clear purple-yellow, finger-shaped, where Mark had grabbed me 3 days before. Bob, what happened to your arm? Workshop accident. Careless with the C-clamp. I laughed. He didn't. Bob, if there's anything you need to talk about, my door's always open, day or night. His eyes held mine. I appreciate that, Pastor, but I'm fine. He nodded slowly, didn't believe me but didn't push. I drove home gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles went white. Friday night, mid-January. VFW Post. First time in 6 weeks. Jim, old buddy from the war. Bob, where you been, man? Charlie, you okay? You lost weight. I forced a smile. Just getting older, fellas. Jim's eyes lingered. You eating okay? I'm fine, really. Quick subject change. How about them Saints? Conversation shifted, but I caught Jim looking at me a few more times. Worried eyes. I left early, didn't go back. Same week, Saturday afternoon, Vernon Davis showed up at my door. 75 retired federal judge. Served with me in Vietnam in 68. Known each other 57 years. Bob, thought I'd drop by. We sat on the porch. Coffee. Small talk. Then Vernon set his cup down, looked straight at me. He saw the bruise on my jaw, faded but visible. Bob, did Mark do that to your face? Silence. What, no, Vernon, don't lie to me. I've known you since we were 20. Did your son put his hands on you? I stood up, angry. That's none of your business, Vernon. And I'd appreciate it if you didn't insult my son or question my ability to manage my own house. Vernon stood too, calm judge voice. I'm not insulting anyone, Bob. I'm worried about you. And if Mark is hurting you, he's not. This conversation's over. I turned toward the door. Bob, wait. Vernon's voice softened. I'm here. When you're ready to stop lying to yourself, when you're ready to accept help, I'm here. You call me, day or night. You hear me. I didn't answer, just went inside. Watched through the window as Vernon drove away. My hands were shaking. Vernon knows. Pastor knows. Jim suspects. How long before everyone knows? That night, I stood in the bathroom and looked at myself in the mirror. Really looked. At the bruise on my jaw, at the dark circles under my eyes, at the 72-year-old man who was terrified of his own son. I thought about Vernon's words, when you're ready to accept help, I'm here. But I wasn't ready. Not yet. Because asking for help meant admitting I'd failed, as a father, as a man. That night, Mark came home drunker than ever. And for the first time, I wasn't just ashamed. I was afraid. After Vernon left that afternoon, I couldn't go back inside. Couldn't face the empty rooms, the silence, the waiting for Mark to come home. So I went to my workshop, the place that's always been mine. Mine and Eleanor's. Mine and Mark's once. I sat at the workbench, surrounded by sawdust and the smell of oil, and I let myself remember. Summer 1992. Mark was 8 gap-toothed standing next to me. What are you making, Dad? Bookshelf for your mama. Want to help? His face lit up. I handed him a small hammer. He gripped it wrong. My hands covered his. Not like that, son. Firm but gentle. Mark's first nail went in crooked. But the pride on that little face. Did I do good, Dad? You did perfect, son. That hammer still hangs on the wall. Mark hasn't touched it in years. Years later, Mark was 10. Built a birdhouse for science class. Worked on it every afternoon for 2 weeks. Nails went in crooked. Roof uneven. Paint messy. But he was so proud. Got a B+. Came home disappointed. You know what matters. You made it with your own hands. That's worth more than any grade. I hung it on the workshop wall. When Mark turned 16. Dad, that thing's ugly. You can take it down. No, you made it. That's what matters. I looked up now. The birdhouse was still there. Faded, dusty, crooked. But still there. The hardest memory. 3 years ago, week after Eleanor's funeral. 2 a.m. I was in the workshop, couldn't sleep. Mark came in, eyes red. Sat next to me. Silent a long time. Then he broke. Sobbed like a little boy. I held him. I don't know how to do this without Mom, Dad. I don't know either, son, but we'll figure it out. Together. Promise. I promise. We didn't. Eleanor's death pulled us apart. Where did that boy go? That was 6 weeks ago. I kept recording. I kept hiding. I kept hoping things would get better. They didn't. 2 nights before everything fell apart, Mark showed me how dangerous he'd become. Wednesday night, around 10. I was in the workshop working on a jewelry box for Eleanor's grave. Almost done. The back door slammed. Mark stormed in, drunk, eyes wild. What the hell you doing out here? Just working on a project, son. It's late. You should rest. Mark sneered. All this junk? You care more about this crap than you care about me? That's not true. Mark grabbed my lighter off the workbench, flicked it. Flame jumped. He held it near the sawdust on the floor, near the wood shavings. One spark and the whole workshop could burn. My heart stopped. Mark, please, don't, not the workshop. Barely a whisper. This was everything. Eleanor's memory. Mark's childhood. Everything that mattered. Mark smiled. Cold. Why not, old man? Maybe I should burn it all down. Then you'd have to pay attention to me instead of your dead trees and dead wife. He held the flame there. Long moment. I couldn't breathe. Then Mark laughed, dropped the lighter. Relax, I'm not going to burn your toys. Yet. Walked out laughing. I stood there shaking. Picked up the lighter with trembling hands. He would have done it. Not angry drunk, dangerous drunk. I sat in the workshop until dawn. Couldn't go back inside where Mark was passed out, like nothing happened. Just sat there holding that lighter, thinking about the look in his eyes. Not anger, something colder. I knew then, the recordings, the hiding, the hoping, none of it mattered anymore. Something had to change, or one day I wouldn't wake up. That change was coming, the very next night. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, listening to every creak. Every sound made my heart jump. Was that Mark's door? Was he coming downstairs? Was tonight the night? Around 2 a.m, I gave up. Got out of bed, slipped out the back door to my workshop. Didn't turn on the kitchen light. Didn't want Mark to know I was awake. The workshop was cold, dark. I flipped on the light and saw them immediately. Empty bottles. 3 of them on my workbench. Cheap bourbon. Mark must have come out here while I was trying to sleep. Left them there on purpose. This is my house, too. I do what I want. I threw them in the trash. The glass clanked loud in the silence. I sat at my workbench, put my head in my hands. If Eleanor were here, none of this would be happening. She'd know what to say to him. She'd know how to reach him. When Mark was a teenager, angry at the world, she'd sit with him at the kitchen table and just talk. Hours sometimes. He'd listen to her. But Eleanor wasn't here, and I didn't have her words. All I had was fear. I opened the drawer, pulled out the recorder. I'd been recording for 3 months now. Had maybe a dozen tapes hidden in the toolbox. I grabbed one at random. Nov 15. Pressed play. Mark's voice filled the workshop. Drunk slurred. You're pathetic, old man. You think Mom would be proud of you? She'd be ashamed. Sound of something breaking. I stopped it. Grabbed another. Deck 3. Mark's voice angrier. I should have never moved back here. Everything wrong in my life is because of you. My own voice trying to call him son, please. Mark, don't call me that. I'm not your son. I'm your burden. I stopped it. Grabbed a third. Jan, 18. 2 weeks ago. Mark's voice cold now. Maybe I should just put you out of your misery. Do us both a favor. Silence on the tape. Then my voice barely audible. Mark, you don't mean that. Mark laughing. Don't I? I stopped the tape. My hands were shaking. The pattern was clear. October insults yelling. November threats breaking things. December, physical intimidation. January, threats of violence. 2 nights ago, fire. It wasn't getting better. It was escalating, like a staircase going down into darkness, and we were halfway to the bottom. Maybe more. I walked to the small mirror on the wall, looked at myself. The bruise on my jaw faded, now yellowish green. The one on my ribs I lifted my shirt was darker, purple-black, where Mark had shoved me into the kitchen counter last week. I looked at the 72-year-old man in the mirror. Thinner than 6 months ago. Dark circles under his eyes. Shoulders hunched. This is what fear looks like. Tomorrow was Friday. Mark always came home drunk on Fridays. Always. If he comes home drunk again, I didn't finish the thought, but my body knew. My hands shaking, my heart racing. I heard a sound upstairs. The creak of Mark's bed. He was stirring. I quickly grabbed the recorder, put it back in the drawer, turned off the light, stood in the darkness listening. The house went silent again. I stayed in the workshop until dawn. Gray light through the window. Birds starting to sing. I didn't know it then, but I had less than 24 hours left as a free man in my own home. Friday morning came gray and cold. I made breakfast. Eggs, toast, coffee. Set the table like always. Mark came down around 9, hungover but calm. Poured himself coffee. Didn't look at me. Going out tonight? He said. With some guys? Don't wait up. I nodded. All right. Friday nights. Always the worst. He left the kitchen. I heard his door close upstairs. I sat there staring at my eggs. Couldn't eat them. The afternoon dragged. I went to my workshop, tried to work on Eleanor's jewelry box. My hands wouldn't cooperate. Kept thinking about tonight. About the pattern. 4 or 5 weeks now. Every Friday. Drunk, angry, worse each time. Around 3 I heard a car pull up. Looked out the window. Pastor Wilson. I met him at the door. Bob? He smiled, but his eyes were concerned. Just passing by. Thought I'd check in. We sat on the porch. He didn't mention the bruises. Didn't ask directly. Just talked about the church, about the weather, about nothing. Then he said it. Bob, you know the church is here for you. Whatever you need. Day or night. I looked at him. He knew. Of course he knew. I appreciate that, Pastor. I mean it, Bob. If there's anything at all you call me, I will. But we both knew I wouldn't. He left around 4. I watched his car disappear down the street. Felt the weight of the secret pressing down on my chest like a stone. Evening came. I made dinner. Simple. Soup bread. Mark came down at maybe 3 bites. Pushed the bowl away. I'm heading out, he said. It was 8 o'clock. He grabbed his keys, stood at the door, looked back at me. Don't wait up, old man. The door slammed. I sat there in the silence. Then I got up, went to the workshop, got the recorder, fresh tape, labeled it Feb 21, brought it back to the kitchen, found the hiding spot I'd set up weeks ago behind the flour canister on the counter shelf angled toward the table, tested it once more, could hear clearly. I pressed record, red light on, hit it. Then I sat down in Eleanor's chair, the rocking chair by the kitchen window, the one she used to sit in while she listened to the radio. I could almost hear her voice. It'll be all right, Bob. We'll figure it out. But it wasn't all right, and I didn't know how to figure it out. I just sat there, waiting, listening to the clock tick, listening to the house settle, listening for the sound of his truck. I didn't have to wait long. Just past midnight I heard his truck, the sound of gravel crunching under tires, engine too loud, cutting through the quiet night. I sat up straighter in Eleanor's chair, my heart hammered. The engine cut off. Truck door slammed. Heavy footsteps on the porch, unsteady stumbling. The key scraped in the lock, once, twice, finally turned. The front door banged open. I heard him in the hallway. Heard something crash, a picture frame hitting the floor. Heard him curse. Then his footsteps, coming toward the kitchen. I didn't move, just sat there, hands folded in my lap, trying to keep my breathing steady. Mark appeared in the doorway. The smell hit me first. Bourbon cigarette sweat. His shirt was untucked, stained. His eyes were red, unfocused. He swayed slightly, gripping the doorframe. He saw me, his face twisted. What the hell are you looking at? I kept my voice calm, quiet. Nothing, son, just couldn't sleep. You okay? Wrong thing to say. Don't call me that. His voice was low, dangerous. He stepped into the kitchen. Don't you ever call me that. I stood up slowly. Mark, it's late. Why don't you go get some rest and we can what? He was yelling now. Talk about it in the morning like that's going to fix anything. He walked toward me. I took a step back. My hip hit the counter. You know what your problem is, old man? You think everything can be fixed with a little patience, a little prayer, a little He waved his hand dismissively. Love? He spat the last word like it was poison. But you never believed in me? Never. Even Mom didn't believe in me. She just pretended, just like you. That's not true, Mark. Your mother loved. Shut up. His fist slammed on the counter. I flinched. You don't get to talk about her. You don't get to tell me what she thought. You know what I am. I'm your failure. I'm the son that couldn't live up to the great Robert Hayes. The carpenter. The veteran, the saint. He stepped closer, his face inches from mine. I'm not your son. I'm your disappointment. Mark, his hands shot out, grabbed me by the shoulders, shoved me hard. I flew backward. My back slammed into the counter edge. Pain exploded up my spine. My head whipped back, cracked against the cabinet corner. White light burst behind my eyes. The kitchen tilted. I tried to catch myself. Couldn't. Slid down the cabinet legs, giving out. But Mark wasn't done. He grabbed the front of my shirt, hauled me partway up. His face was red, twisted with rage. And then his fist came. Close tight, hard. It hit my face like a hammer. The impact snapped my head to the side. I heard something crunch, felt it more than heard it. My cheekbone, my nose, pain exploded white hot across my face. Blood burst immediately. From my nose, from my lips split open against my teeth, hot and metallic, filling my mouth. You want to talk? Mark's voice was shaking. Let's talk now, old man. Let's talk about how you ruined my life. Let's talk about how everything I touch turns to shit because of you. I couldn't speak, couldn't think. My face was on fire. Blood ran down my chin, dripped onto my shirt. I just looked up at my son, and didn't recognize him. Mark stood over me, breathing hard, knuckles red, looking down at me, crumpled on the floor. And then something shifted in his face. The rage drained away, left something else, something worse. Satisfaction. He let go of my shirt. I slumped against the cabinet. That's what I thought. His voice was almost calm now. You got nothing to say now, do you? He turned, walked toward the stairs, stopped at the doorway, looked back. Clean yourself up? You're pathetic. Then he went upstairs. His bedroom door slammed. The house fell silent. I sat there on the kitchen floor, blood running down my face, pooling in my lap, pain radiating from my nose, my cheekbone, my head, my back. My hands were shaking so badly I couldn't make them stop. Behind the flour canister, the red light on the recorder blinked steadily. Still recording. I don't know how long I lay there on the kitchen floor. Minutes, hours. Time felt strange, stretched thin like taffy. The floor was cold under me, hard. The taste of blood thick in my mouth. My jaw throbbed with every heartbeat. My nose felt like it was split open. My ribs ached where I'd hit the counter. But worse than the physical pain, worse than all of it, was the thought that kept looping through my head. My son just beat me, in the home I built, with my own hands. I heard a sound from upstairs, Mark's bed creaking, and then a few minutes later, another sound. Snoring. He was snoring, sleeping peacefully. Like nothing had happened. Like he hadn't just put his fist in his father's face. Like I was nothing. That sound, that rhythmic, peaceful snoring broke something inside me. Not broke me down, broke me open. I had to move. Couldn't just lie here on this floor like a piece of trash he'd thrown away. I rolled onto my side. Pain shot through my ribs, gritted my teeth, pushed myself up onto my hands and knees. The kitchen spun. I waited for it to settle. Then I crawled. Across the floor, through the hallway, to the little half-bathroom under the stairs. I pulled myself up using the sink, stood there swaying, turned on the light, and looked in the mirror. The man staring back at me was 72 years old. Blood crusted around his nose and mouth, his lips split open, swollen, his left cheek already turning purple, eyes starting to swell shut. Blood smeared down his neck, soaked into his collar. But it wasn't the blood I saw. It wasn't the bruises. I looked in that mirror and I saw my father. My father who died when I was 30. My father who spent the last 10 years of his life afraid of my older brother. My brother who'd come back from Korea, angry, broken, violent. Who'd push our father around, who'd yell at him, humiliate him, take his money. And my father never said a word, never told anyone, just took it, lived with the shame, died with it. I remember finding him in his chair one morning, heart attack the doctor said, but I always wondered if it was the weight of that silence that killed him, the weight of pretending everything was fine when it wasn't. I looked at my reflection, at the blood, at the fear in my own eyes, and I thought I will not become my father. I will not die in silence. The shame I'd been carrying for months, The shame that had kept me quiet kept me lying to Vernon and Pastor Wilson and Jim. It burned away in that moment, turned to ash. What was left was something harder, colder, resolve. I washed my face with cold water, careful around the wounds. The water ran pink in the sink. I dried off with a towel, patted gently at the cuts. Upstairs, Mark was still snoring, sleeping like a baby, like he's got nothing to be ashamed of. I walked back to the kitchen. My legs were steadier now. The shock was wearing off. In its place, clarity. I went to the counter, reached behind the flour canister, pulled out the recorder. The red light was still blinking. I pressed stop. The silence that followed felt enormous. I rewound the tape a few seconds, pressed play. My own voice small and frightened. "Mark, you don't mean that." Mark's voice cold. "Don't I?" Then the sounds, the shove. My body hitting the counter, my head cracking against the cabinet, my grunt of pain. Mark's voice. "You want to talk? Let's talk now, old man." And then the impact, the punch, my own cry of pain muffled. "Mark, everything I touch turns to shit because of you." I stopped the tape. Checked the counter. 47 minutes recorded. The entire attack. My hands were shaking as I held that little silver recorder. Eleanor's recorder, with the faded rose sticker. "Eleanor," I thought, "I hope you're watching. I'm doing what you would have wanted. I'm stopping this." I looked at the clock on the wall. 1:47 a.m. I wasn't going to bed, wasn't going to lie down and wait for morning, wasn't going to pretend this didn't happen. I took the recorder, walked out the back door to my workshop. The air was cold, clear, the rain had stopped, stars were out. I turned on the workshop light, sat at my workbench, put the recorder down in front of me, stared at it. This little device held the truth, 47 minutes of truth that I couldn't deny anymore, couldn't hide from. I thought about Vernon's words from weeks ago, "When you're ready to accept help, I'm here." I thought about Pastor Wilson, "My door's always open, day or night." I thought about Detective David at church, a good man, a man of the law. I need help. I can't do this alone. If I was going to do this, if I was going to break the silence, break the cycle, save my own life, I was going to do it right. And I was going to need help. Dawn came slowly through the workshop windows. Gray light, then pink, then gold. I hadn't slept. Didn't even try. Just sat at my workbench all night, the recorder in front of me, waiting for morning. Around 5 I stood up. My body ached back, stiff face throbbing, but my mind was clear. It was time. I walked across the yard to the back door, opened it quietly. The house was silent. Mark was still sleeping upstairs. I could hear him snoring through the ceiling. I stepped into the kitchen, stopped, looked at the scene. Dried blood on the floor. My blood. A smear where I'd slid down the cabinet. Broken glass in the corner, something Mark had knocked over. The chair I'd been sitting in tipped on its side. Evidence of a crime scene. I got a bucket. Filled it with hot water and soap. Got down on my hands and knees and scrubbed. Every drop of blood. Every shard of glass. Righted the chair. Wiped down the counter. I wasn't hiding what happened. I was setting the stage. In the South, you settle things at the table. With witnesses. With dignity. And if I was going to do this, I was going to do it right. I started cooking. 5:30 in the morning, and I made a feast. Scrambled eggs with butter. Bacon crispy the way Eleanor used to make it. Grits with cream and sharp cheddar. Biscuits from scratch, her recipe, the one her mama taught her. I found her apron in the drawer. The plaid one she'd given me years ago said it was more my style than her flowery ones. I tied it on. It still smelled faintly of her. Lavender and vanilla. "Eleanor," I thought as I worked, "I hope you'd be proud." Every action was deliberate, methodical. I wasn't just making breakfast. I was preparing for war. By 6:30, the food was ready. The house smelled like Sunday morning after church, like everything was normal, like we were a family. I carried everything to the dining room, not the kitchen. The dining room was more formal, more serious. I spread out Eleanor's white lace tablecloth, the one she'd saved for special occasions, birthdays, holidays, funerals. I set the table with her good china, the wedding china with the tiny blue flowers around the rim, 4 place settings, 1 for me at the head, 3 others. 1 for Vernon, 1 for Detective Carter, 1 for the officer he'd bring. I stepped back, looked at the table. Mark would come down and see this. He'd think it was an apology, a surrender. The old man finally learned his place. He'd be wrong. I went upstairs, showered carefully, avoiding the bruises, got dressed, clean white shirt pressed, my church slacks, polished shoes, and my VFW pin, the one I'd earned in Vietnam, the one I wore to remind myself I was a man who'd survived worse than this. I looked in the bathroom mirror. The bruises were vivid now, purple and yellow on my jaw. My nose swollen, both eyes blackened. My lips split, crusted with blood. I didn't try to hide them. Didn't put on a hat or sunglasses. These bruises were evidence. They were the truth. I went to my bedroom, pulled the recorder from my shirt pocket where I'd kept it all night. 47 minutes. Crystal clear. I tucked it back in my shirt pocket, over my heart. The clock on my nightstand read 7:45. 15 minutes until 8 o'clock. 15 minutes until Vernon and Detective Carter arrived. Just enough time for Mark to wake up and come downstairs. I went back down to the dining room, sat at the head of the table, folded my hands, and waited. The house was quiet. The morning sun streamed through the windows, lighting up the white tablecloth, the blue flowers on the china, the steam still rising from the grits. Everything was perfect. Everything was ready. Once I made these calls, there was no going back. I dialed the first number, Vernon Davis. The phone rang twice. Vernon answered alert despite the hour. Vernon Davis. Vernon, my voice broke. I need you. Silence. Then Bob, what happened? Are you hurt? Mark came home drunk. I swallowed. He hit me, Vernon, in my own kitchen. Sharp breath on the other end. Where is he now? Upstairs, sleeping. How bad are you hurt? I touched my swollen face. Bad enough. Vernon, I need you to come over tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock. I'll be there, Bob. His voice was firm, the judge voice. And Bob, you did the right thing, calling me. I hung up, one down. I dialed the second number, Savannah Police Department. Asked for Detective James Carter. The dispatcher hesitated. Detective Carter's off duty. Tell him it's Bob Hayes from First Baptist. Domestic violence. I'm the victim. Tone changed. 1 moment, sir. 2 minutes later, Carter's voice. Bob, what's going on? Are you safe? Detective, my son assaulted me tonight. I need to file a report. But I want to do this right, with dignity. Can you come at 8 a.m. tomorrow? Pause. Bob, if you're in danger right now, I'm not. He's passed out drunk. But I need you there in the morning. I've got evidence. Everything you need. Another pause. All right, Bob, 8 sharp. I'll bring backup. But if anything changes, you call 911. Understood. Understood. Thank you. I hung up, 2 down. Last call. My brother Tommy. The phone rang 6 times. Hello, Groggy. Tommy, it's Bob. Bob, it's 2 in the morning. I need you to know something. In case something happens to me. I told him. The drinking, the abuse, tonight. Tommy's voice went from sleepy to furious. I'm coming over right now. No, I need to do this my way, but I needed family to know. Long silence. Then I'm proud of you, big brother. Takes guts. My throat tightened. Thanks. You call me if you need anything, anytime. I will. I hung up. Sat there in the silence. 3 calls made. The wheels were in motion. I looked at the recorder, picked it up. Eleanor, I whispered, I hope you're watching. I'm doing what you would have wanted. I set it down, checked the clock, 2:15 a.m. Less than 6 hours until 8 o'clock. I didn't go to bed. Instead, I started planning. I was going to make breakfast. A big one. Set the table with Eleanor's good china. The lace tablecloth, make everything perfect. If I was going to end this, I was going to do it right. I heard his bedroom door open upstairs, 8:02 a.m. I was sitting at the head of the dining room table, hands folded in my lap, waiting. The sound of the shower starting. Mark was taking his time. Probably didn't even remember last night. Probably thought everything was fine. He had no idea. At 8:05, the doorbell rang, 3 firm knocks. I stood, walked to the front door, opened it. Standing on my porch were 3 people. Judge Vernon Davis, 75 years old, tall and dignified in a dark suit. His face was grim, but his eyes were kind. He looked at my face, the bruises, the swollen nose, the split lip, and his jaw tightened. He gripped my shoulder, didn't say anything, didn't need to. Behind him stood Detective James Carter in full uniform, and beside Carter, Officer Reynolds, young professional, hand near his belt. Thank you for coming, I said quietly. Carter's eyes scanned my face. Professional assessment. Bob, you need photos of those injuries. After I said, first I need him to see this. They stepped inside. I led them to the dining room. Vernon sat in the chair to my right, the place of honor. Carter and Reynolds stood near the doorway, official and imposing. The table between us was set with food. Eggs, bacon, grits, biscuits. The smell filled the room, everything untouched. Perfect. We waited. The silence was heavy. The kind of silence before a storm breaks. At 8:15, I heard the shower stop upstairs. Vernon looked at me. I nodded. Footsteps on the stairs. Slow, shuffling, hungover. Mark appeared at the bottom of the stairs. Jeans, old t-shirt, hair still damp. He walked toward the kitchen, following the smell of food, not looking around. He stopped in the doorway of the dining room, saw the table, saw me sitting at the head. His eyes widened, took in the spread, the lace tablecloth, the good china, the steam rising from the grits. And then, God help me, he smiled. Not a kind smile, a slow, satisfied smile. The smile of a man who thought he'd won. Well, he said, voice thick with that cruel satisfaction. Look at this. He stepped into the room. Didn't even glance at the others. His eyes were locked on me. Finally learned your place, didn't you, old man? He walked to the table, reached out, picked up a biscuit from the basket, held it up like he was inspecting it, grinned. I knew you'd come around. All it took was a little... He stopped mid-sentence. Something in my eyes made him stop. I wasn't looking down, wasn't looking away. I was looking straight at him. My expression calm, cold, resolved. Mark's grin faltered. His eyes narrowed. For the first time, he actually looked at the table, saw the 4-place settings, saw the extra chairs. Confusion flickered across his face. What's all this? He said slowly, looked at me. You having company? That's when he turned around. Mark turned toward the doorway and froze. Standing in my living room, framed by the morning light filtering through the lace curtains, Eleanor picked out 20 years ago, were 3 people. Judge Vernon Davis sat in Eleanor's reading chair, his thick hands folded in his lap. He wore a dark suit, the kind he used to wear on the bench. His face weathered, lined, serious, held no warmth. Just cold disappointment. Detective James Carter stood near the window. Uniform pressed sharp, badge catching the light. His hand rested near his belt, relaxed but ready. His eyes tracked Mark's every movement. Officer Reynolds stood by the door, younger, broad-shouldered, silent. His posture was formal, his expression neutral, but his presence filled the room like a wall. Mark's face went white. The biscuit fell from his hand, hit the floor with a soft thud. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. His eyes darted from Vernon to Carter to Reynolds, then back to me. What the hell is this? His voice cracked. Dad, what the hell is going on? I didn't answer, just stood there, hands steady waiting. Vernon spoke first. His voice was low, even, but it carried the weight of a gavel. Sit down, Mark. Mark didn't move. His breath came fast, shallow. He looked at me again, desperate now. Dad, sit down. Vernon's voice didn't rise. Didn't need to. It was the voice that had silenced courtrooms for 30 years. Mark sat, dropped into the chair across from me, legs shaking. He wiped his mouth with the back of his hand. His eyes kept darting to the door, to Carter, to Vernon. Vernon leaned forward, elbows on his knees. I've known your father since before you were born, Mark. I was at your baptism, at your high school graduation, at your wedding. He paused. And I know what you've done to him. Mark's jaw clenched. I don't know what he told you, but I watched your father build this house with his own hands. Vernon continued, cutting him off. Watched him bury his wife. Watched him care for you your whole life. And you, his voice turned cold. You come into his home, eat his food, sleep under his roof, and you put your hands on him. Mark's face flushed red. That's not his line. I never... Detective Carter stepped forward. His voice was calm, professional, but it stopped Mark cold. Mr. Hayes, I'm Detective James Carter, Mobile Police Department. Your father called me at 1:47 this morning to report a domestic assault that occurred in this home approximately 90 minutes prior. Mark's eyes went wide. What? He reported that you, Mark Hayes, physically assaulted him, shoved him, struck him in the face. Carter's eyes flicked to my bruised jaw, my split lip. The injuries are consistent with his report. Mark shot out of his chair. What, Dad? You called the cops on me. You... His voice pitched higher, desperate. Are you insane? I'm your son. That's when I spoke. First words I'd said since he came downstairs. My voice didn't shake. You stopped being my son last night, Mark. The room went silent. Mark stared at me. His mouth opened and closed. Then anger flared. This is bullshit. I didn't... Okay, fine, I was drunk. I pushed you a little, but I didn't... You punched me in the face. My voice stayed level. Knocked my head into the cabinet. Left me bleeding on the kitchen floor. I didn't mean... You laughed when you walked away. Mark froze. His face crumpled. Panic flooded his eyes. He looked at Vernon, at Carter, searching for sympathy, for mercy. I was drunk. I didn't know what I was doing. Dad, please. I reached into my shirt pocket, pulled out a small silver voice recorder, placed it on the table. Mark stared at it. His face went from white to gray. His voice was barely a whisper. What is that? Your mother's recorder. I kept my hand on it steady. She used it to record her thoughts, her prayers, her memories. Mark's eyes stayed locked on the recorder. He knew. He already knew. I've been using it, I said quietly, to record you. The words dropped into the room like stones into still water. Mark's mouth opened, closed, opened again. You've been recording me. For 3 months. Mark's face went from white to gray. You've been recording me. His voice climbed higher, panic edging in. That's illegal. You can't. Detective Carter cut him off. His voice stayed calm, professional. Actually, Alabama's a one-party consent state. Your father has every legal right to record conversations in his own home. Mark's mouth snapped shut. His eyes darted around the room, searching for an escape that wasn't there. His hands gripped the edge of the table. I kept my hand on the recorder, steady. I have 47 minutes from last night, I said quietly. But I have more than that. I pressed play. The first recording was from 3 months ago, late October, the night it started. Mark's voice crackled through the small speaker, drunk, slurred. You're pathetic, old man. You think Eleanor would be proud of you, she'd be ashamed. The sound of something shattering, a glass hitting the wall. Clean it up yourself. I'm not your maid. I stopped the recording. The silence in the room pressed down like a weight. Vernon's jaw tightened. Carter's pen scratched across his notepad. Mark stared at the recorder. His breathing went shallow. I played the next one. This was from 6 weeks ago, the day Vernon came to check on me. I never should have moved back here. You're dragging me down. Everything wrong in my life is because of you. My own voice quiet, careful. Son, please, let's talk when you're sober. Don't call me that. I'm not your son. I'm your burden. I stopped it again. Vernon's hands clenched into fists on his knees. Carter kept writing, but his jaw set hard. Mark's face flushed red. He opened his mouth, closed it. 2 nights ago, the workshop. I pressed play without saying anything. Mark's voice thick with liquor. You love this damn workshop more than you ever loved me. The sharp click of a lighter. Maybe I should burn it down. Then you'd pay attention. My voice shaking. Mark, put that down. Mark's laugh cold and mean. What are you going to do, old man? Stop me. I stopped the recording. Mark was trembling now, his eyes wide, realizing the trap closing around him. You can't. Those were private conversations. This was last night. I pressed play one more time. The sound of the back door slamming. Mark's footsteps, unsteady, heavy. The hell you staring at? My voice quiet. Just wanted to make sure you got home safe. Safe? You don't give a damn about me. You just want to control me. The escalation, his voice rising sharper, meaner. I'm sick of this, sick of you sitting there looking at me like I'm some disappointment. Then the sounds. A shove, my body hitting the counter. The dull thud of my head striking the cabinet. Mark's breathing heavy, ragged. My voice gasping, Mark, please. The impact. The punch. The sound of flesh on flesh. Bone on bone. My cry of pain. A long silence. Then Mark's breathing satisfied. That's what I thought. Now you got nothing to say, do you? Footsteps walking away, the stairs creaking. I stopped the recorder. The silence in the room was deafening. Vernon's eyes were wet, not with tears, with fury and grief. His hands shook in his lap. Detective Carter's expression had gone stone cold. He looked at Mark the way you'd look at something broken beyond repair. Mark was breathing hard. Tears ran down his face, but they weren't remorse. They were fear. Dad, please! His voice cracked. I'll go to rehab. I'll get help. I'll do whatever you want. Just please don't. I stood up slowly. Looked my son in the eyes. I protected you your whole life, Mark. My voice didn't waver. From consequences, from your own mistakes, from reality. I let the words settle. Last night you proved you don't need a father anymore. I paused. You need the law. I nodded to Detective Carter. Mark's face crumpled. No, Dad, no, please. Carter stood, pulled a pair of handcuffs from his belt. Mark Hayes. Carter said, his voice formal, now final. You're under arrest for domestic violence in the 3rd degree. Detective Carter stepped forward. Mark Hayes, stand up. Mark didn't move. His hands gripped the table edge, knuckles white. "Stand up, son," Carter repeated. His voice was firm but not harsh. Mark stood slowly, his legs shaking. "Mark Hayes, you're under arrest for domestic violence in the 3rd degree." Carter's voice shifted into the formal cadence I'd heard on TV 100 times, but never thought I'd hear in my own home. "You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have the right to an attorney. If you cannot afford an attorney, one will be provided for you." Officer Reynolds moved in with the handcuffs. Mark's eyes went wide. "No, wait, Dad, please." He reached toward me, desperate. Vernon stepped between us, solid, unmovable. "Don't make this worse, son," Vernon said quietly. Mark's face crumpled. He started crying. Not remorse, self-pity. "I'm your son. How can you do this to me?" I met his eyes. My voice stayed steady. "Because you're my son, I had to." The handcuffs clicked shut. Mark sobbed as Reynolds guided him toward the door. He tried to pull away once, but Reynolds held firm. "Easy now," Reynolds said, not cruel, just steady. They let him out through the front door. I followed to the porch. Didn't hide. The neighbors were outside. Word travels fast in a neighborhood like ours. Mrs. Patterson across the street stood on her lawn. The Johnsons next door watched from their driveway. I watched the police car pull away. Mark's face in the back window twisted with anger and fear. Vernon stood beside me on the porch. "You did the right thing, Bob." I nodded. Couldn't speak for a moment. "Then why do I feel like I'm dying?" Monday morning, I gave my formal statement at the police station. Told them everything. They took photos of my bruises, jaw ribs, the cut on my lip. A doctor examined me that afternoon. Found bruising on my back and ribs I hadn't even noticed. Documented it all. Mark was held overnight Saturday, then released on bail Monday afternoon. Diane's family paid it. The irony wasn't lost on me. Tuesday morning, a restraining order was issued. Mark couldn't contact me. Couldn't come within 500 feet of my house. For the first time in 4 months, I slept through the night. The bruises faded over 2 weeks. My lip healed. But my ribs ached for a month every time I turned wrong in bed or reached for something on a high shelf. Pastor Wilson came by that Wednesday, sat with me for an hour, didn't preach, just listened. "You should talk to someone, Bob, a counselor." I resisted at first, felt like weakness. But Thursday night alone in that house with too much silence, I called the number he gave me. First session, I cried for an hour straight. The counselor, a woman named Dr. Reeves, handed me tissues and waited. When I finally stopped, she said it gently, "You're grieving. Grieving the son you thought you had." That was it exactly. The church rallied. Meals appeared on my porch. Cards in the mail. Phone calls checking in. My VFW friends, Jim, Charlie, Frank, came by every Saturday. Helped with yard work. Sat on the porch. Didn't make me talk if I didn't want to. But there was judgment, too. At the hardware store 2 weeks later, I heard whispers behind me. He called the cops on his own son. I turned around, looked the man in the eye. "I saved his life," I said quietly, "and mine." Walked out with my head up. Mark was charged with assault in the 3rd degree domestic violence. Class A misdemeanor in Alabama. He faced up to a year in jail. His court-appointed lawyer advised him to take a plea deal. Mark agreed. 3 weeks after his arrest, Vernon went to the sentencing hearing. I couldn't. Vernon called me that evening and told me 6 months in a residential rehab facility in Montgomery. 2 years probation after that. Court-ordered anger management. Any violation, he'd serve the full year. I thanked Vernon and hung up. Sat in Eleanor's chair and stared at the wall for an hour. 4 weeks after the arrest, I found an envelope in my mailbox. Handwritten address. Mark's handwriting. Return address from the rehab center in Montgomery. My hand shook as I carried it inside. I set it on Eleanor's old writing desk. Stared at it. Couldn't open it. Not that day. Not the next. 3 days it sat there. Every time I walked past, my heart clenched. I finally read Mark's letter on a Thursday morning, 3 days after it arrived. Sat at the kitchen table with coffee gone cold. unfolded the pages with hands that still trembled. His handwriting was shaky, vulnerable. "Dad, I don't know how to start this. The counselors here say I need to take responsibility. Not just say it. Actually mean it. So here it is, I was wrong. Worse than wrong. I was cruel. I was dangerous. I've been sober for 4 weeks now, first time in 2 years, and for the first time I can see clearly. See what I did. See who I became. I destroyed everything. My marriage, my career, my dignity, and worst of all, I hurt you. The alcohol didn't make me mean Dad, it just showed who I'd become. What you did, letting me fall so I could learn to stand, was the hardest thing you ever did, and the most loving. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I want you to know I'm trying to become the man you raised. The man Mom would be proud of. I'm sorry doesn't cover it, but it's all I have. Mark." I set the letter down, wiped my eyes, cried quietly at that table for a long time, but underneath the grief I felt something else, cautious hope. 6 months later, Mark completed rehab, moved into a sober living facility in Mobile. Got a warehouse job, manual labor, honest work. His sponsor said he attended AA meetings 5 times a week. He didn't contact me directly, respected the restraining order. Through his court mediator, he requested a supervised meeting. I hesitated for 2 weeks, talked to Vernon about it. What if he hasn't really changed? Vernon looked at me. Then you'll know. But you need to see for yourself, Bob. I agreed to the meeting. We met at the counselor's office. Neutral ground. The mediator sat to the side. I arrived early, hands clenched, heart pounding. The door opened. Mark walked in. He looked different. Thinner but healthy. Clean-shaven, eyes clear, no fog, no anger. He wore work clothes, jeans flannel boots, scuffed from labor. His hands were calloused. We sat across from each other, a small table between us. The silence stretched long. Mark spoke first. "Hi, Dad." My heart clenched at the word. "I know I don't have the right to call you that anymore." I looked at him. "You're still my son, Mark. That never changed. What changed is what I'm willing to tolerate." Mark nodded. His eyes glistened. We talked for an hour. Mark didn't make excuses, didn't ask to move back in. He just apologized. "I'm sorry, Dad, for everything, every word, every action, every moment of fear I caused you." His voice cracked. "I hit you. My own father. I watched for signs of manipulation, saw none. I'm not asking for forgiveness," Mark said. "I'm asking for a chance, someday, to show you I've changed." I folded my hands. "You'll get that chance, but it's going to be slow, and it'll be on my terms." Mark nodded quickly. "I understand. I'll wait as long as it takes. You'll keep your job, keep going to meetings, stay sober." "Yes, sir." "And you don't come to my house unless I invite you." "Yes, sir." I looked at him, saw the boy who built a crooked birdhouse, saw the man who punched me in my own kitchen, saw someone in between, someone trying. "Then we'll see," I said. We didn't hug. We shook hands, formal, cautious. Mark left first. I stayed behind. "How do you feel?" the mediator asked gently. "Scared, hopeful, still grieving." She nodded. "That's normal. Healing isn't linear." I drove home in silence, sat in my workshop that evening, looked at Eleanor's photo on my workbench. I don't know if I did the right thing, Elle, but I did the only thing I could. I picked up my carving tools, started working on a new project, a small wooden box. I didn't know yet if it was for me or for Mark someday. Maybe it didn't matter. Some things you can't fix with your hands, but you can choose not to let them break you. And that I'm learning is enough. This is my true story, not the kind of grandpa stories you expect no fishing trips or happy holidays. This is the true story of what happens when love becomes silence and silence becomes danger. I'm 72 now. I should have spoken up sooner, should have set boundaries when Mark first crossed the line. But I didn't. I protected him from consequences his whole life, and that protection nearly killed us both. Don't be like me. Don't wait until you're bleeding on your own kitchen floor to act. If someone you love is hurting you, physically, emotionally, Doesn't matter, you're not betraying them by protecting yourself. You're saving them. And you. The hardest lesson I learned. Real love sometimes looks like handcuffs, like restraining orders, like saying no more when every instinct screams to say one more chance. Eleanor used to say God gives us strength, not when we want it, but when we need it most. She was right. That strength came at 1:47 in the morning, sitting in my workshop with a recorder and a phone. These grandpa stories aren't always sweet. Sometimes they're survival guides. Mark's getting better, slowly. We're rebuilding, but it's on my terms now. That's the difference. If this true story touched you, if you've been there, or know someone who has left a comment below, share this with someone who needs to hear it. And subscribe to this channel for more grandpa stories that tell the truth, not just the fairy tale. You're not alone, and it's never too late to save yourself.